Hello everyone, hi and welcome back to our machine learning series. In our last video, we learned how to build a decision tree step by step from choosing the best attribute to calculating Gini or entropy. In today's video, we will go a little deeper and cover some really important topics to make the decision tree concept crystal clear. So here's what we are going to cover today. Alright, now let's start with the very core idea, the decision tree algorithm. Think of a decision tree like a smart flowchart that learns from data. Its job is simple to split data in the best possible way, step by step, until we can make a clear prediction. Goal. So, what's the main goal of the decision tree algorithm? It's to train a model or simply say build a tree that fits our dataset and can make predictions accurately. We want the tree to learn patterns from the training data so that when it sees new unseen examples, it can predict the correct label. Inputs. Now let's see what inputs we actually need to build a decision tree. First, a training data set that contains all your samples along with their labels. Basically, the examples from which your tree will learn. Second, a metric to evaluate how good each split is. This could be something like Gini index, entropy, or even accuracy. All of these tell us how pure our subsets become after splitting. And third, some stopping conditions like the maximum depth of the tree or minimum samples required in a node. These are super important to prevent the tree from growing too deep and overfitting the data. So, these three dataset, metric, and stopping rules are the key ingredients for building our tree. Output. And what do we get as the output? A fully trained decision tree that perfectly fits our dataset and is ready to make predictions. It's like training a student after enough examples, they can start answering new questions confidently. Now next, let's move to the pseudocode. Alright, now let's see how the decision tree actually grows step by step using its pseudocode. Step 1. Add the node. We start by creating the root node which represent the entire dataset. This is level 0 of the tree and initially we call it a leaf node because no split has been made yet. Step 2. Keep splitting until we stop. Next, we repeat this process until one of our stopping conditions is met. We pick a leaf node at the highest level, that means the one which can still be split. Then for each feature, we test how well it can divide the data. For example, if we split by age, does it separate the target classes better than platform? We check this using our chosen metric like Gini or entropy. The feature that gives the best score becomes our splitting feature. Now we actually split the dataset into two subsets, one for each branch, and create two new leaf nodes. If our parent node is at level I, these new child nodes will be at level I plus 1. This is how our tree keeps growing level by level, split by split. Step 3. Decisions versus leaf node. Now at every step we need to decide should this node split further or stay as a leaf. If splitting is allowed and improves the result, we convert the leaf into a decision node and add two new child leaves. If no split is allowed, maybe because the data is already pure or the stopping condition is reached, we keep it as a leaf node. And that leaf node will represent a final prediction, usually the most common label among its samples. For example, if 80% of samples in that leaf are yes, that leaf predicts yes. Return. Once all the nodes are processed and no further splits can be made, we return the complete decision tree. This final trained tree is our model ready to predict outcomes for new data. So in short, the decision tree algorithm starts with the full data set at the root, finds the best features to split on, grows branch by branch until all conditions are met, and finally produces a tree that can make predictions. Simple logic repeated recursively, that's what makes decision trees so powerful and intuitive. Alright, now that we have seen the pseudocode, let's look at this process visually through a flowchart. This flowchart represents exactly how a decision tree is built step by step from start to finish. A. Start. We begin here, the start point. This marks the beginning of our decision tree construction. B. Add root node. Level 0. The first thing we do is add our root node, which represents the entire data set. At this point, the level is 0, meaning it's the top of the tree. No splits have been made yet and it's treated as a leaf node for now. C. Check stopping conditions. Now we ask an important question. Should we stop here? This is where we check all the stopping conditions. For example, is the data already pure? Have we reached the maximum depth? Or do we have too few samples to split further? If the answer is yes, that means we have reached our limit and we moved to the next step. If the answer is no, that means we can still grow the tree, so we will continue splitting. D. Assign most common label. If we decide to stop, we assign the most common label from that node's data as its prediction. So if most samples in that node are labeled yes, that node will predict yes. This is what we call a leaf node, and this becomes one of our final decisions. E. Select best feature to split data. If stopping conditions are not met, we move ahead to find the best feature to split our data. We test every feature, calculate metrics like entropy or Gini, and select the one that gives the cleanest or purest split. This feature becomes our decision node, and now we are ready to grow new branches. F. Create two new leaf nodes. After selecting the best feature, we split our dataset into two subsets. For example, left side could be age less than 30 and right side could be age greater than 30. We then create two new leaf nodes, each representing one of these subsets. These will either become new decision nodes in the next round or stay as leaf nodes if they can't be split further. Repeat for each leaf. Now the process repeats for each leaf node that can still be split. We go back and check the same steps again. This is what makes decision trees recursive. Each new branch goes through the same process independently. At all conditions met, once we have gone through every possible node and all stopping conditions are met, our tree is fully grown. I return final decision tree. Finally, we return our trained decision tree, which can now take new data as input and predict the correct output. That's the final model, ready to make smart decisions. So in short, the flow chart captures the full life cycle of a decision tree, starting with the dataset, checking when to stop, splitting based on the best feature, and repeating the process until we end up with a complete model. Visualizing it this way really helps us understand how the algorithm moves step by step from a single root node to a fully grown tree. Alright, now that we understand how a basic decision tree grows, let's extend our idea a little further. So far, we have been dealing with features that have only two possible values, like yes, no, or Android phone. That's what we call binary features, from binary to multi-class features. But in the real world, features are not always that simple. Sometimes a feature can have more than two categories. For example, animal can be dog, cat, or bird, or color could be red, blue, or green. So the question is, can our decision tree still handle these multi-class features? The good news is yes. The same decision tree algorithm works perfectly, only the splitting step changes slightly. Next is how to split non-binary categorical data. Here's how we handle it. Instead of trying to split all categories at once, we simply convert them into a series of binary yes-no questions. Basically, we break down a multi-class feature into multiple smaller binary splits that the tree can process easily. For example, let's say our future is animal and it has three categories: dog, cat, and bird. The algorithm will ask questions like, is the animal a dog? Is the animal a cat? Is the animal a bird? Each of these questions create a binary split, meaning the data is divided into two parts, yes and no. This way, even though our original feature was multi-class, the tree can still process it step by step using simple yes-no decisions, choosing the best split. Now, just like before, the algorithm doesn't randomly pick which question to use first. For each possible question, like is it a dog or is it a cat, it calculates a score using metrics such as accuracy, Gini index, or entropy. Whichever question gives the best metric, meaning it splits the data most cleanly, that becomes the decision node. So even for multi-class data, the decision tree still chooses the most informative split, just like it does for binary data. This process is called one-hot encoding. Now, technically, this process is very similar to something called one-hot encoding, which you might have heard of in data preprocessing. In one-hot encoding, we convert one categorical feature into multiple binary columns, one for each possible category. Let's see an example. So here, If the animal is a dog, only the dog column gets 1, others remain 0. Same for cat and bird. This representation helps our algorithm handle categorical features mathematically, turning text labels into numbers without losing meaning. So, to sum it up, when features have more than 2 categories, we don't panic. We simply break them into multiple binary yes no splits, calculate which one gives the best separation, and continue growing our tree. That's how decision trees extend naturally from binary to multi-class features. Simple, systematic, and super powerful. Now let's visualize everything we just learned using this simple flowchart. Here we will see exactly how a decision tree handles a feature that has more than 2 categories, like our example feature animal. Feature animal, dog, cat, bird. We start with our feature animal. It has 3 possible values, dog, cat, and bird. Since the tree can only handle binary decisions yes or no, we will break this into a series of questions. Step 1. Ask, is animal a dog? The first question the tree asks is the animal a dog? If the answer is yes, then we have reached our first leaf, it's a dog. If the answer is no, that means it's not a dog, so we move on to the next questions. Now, for the remaining data, we ask the next question, is the animal a cat? If the answer is yes, perfect, we classify it as a cat. If the answer is no, then we know it's neither a dog nor a cat. And that automatically means it must be a bird. That becomes our final leaf node in this branch. So, our decision tree goes step by step, asking one yes no question at a time until it confidently classifies the data. This flowchart shows that even with multiple categories, the decision tree keeps things simple and structured: one question, two answers, and repeat. That's how we convert a multi-class feature into a set of binary splits, and it works beautifully for any number of categories. Alright, so far we have seen how decision trees handle categorical data like dog, cat, or bird. But what if our feature is not a category? What if it's a number like age, income, or height? These are continuous values, meaning they can take on many different numbers. For numerical data, a decision tree does not ask, is it a cat or dog? Instead, it asks questions like, is the value less than x, or is the value greater than or equal to x? Each of these questions divides our dataset into two groups, just like before, but now based on a threshold value x. Let's take an example of a book recommendation system where our feature is the user's age. Here we have users of different ages and genres they prefer. Now, instead of checking every possible number, we look at midpoints between consecutive ages because only those make sense for splitting. So, our possible split questions are: each question divides the user into two groups, younger versus older, and changes how genres are distributed. But how do we know which question is the best? For that, we calculate metrics like accuracy, Gini impurity, or entropy for every possible split. The split that gives us the highest accuracy or lowest impurity becomes the chosen one. For example, if the split age less than 20 separates fantasy readers from others most clearly, that will be selected as the best split. Behind the scenes, here's what happens. The tree divides the data set into two sets. Set 1 users younger than x, set 2 user older or equal to x. Then it checks how pure each set is, meaning how consistent the labels are within each group. Finally, it calculates a weighted average of both sides to measure how good that split is overall. So, the decision tree keeps testing possible threshold until it finds the one that divides the data in the most meaningful way. And that's how numerical features like age, salary, or marks are perfectly handled inside our decision tree. In short, categorical features are split using yes or no questions, while numerical features are split using less than or greater than x thresholds. And the best threshold is the one that makes our data the purest, the most organized by label. And that's exactly how a decision tree decides where to cut continuous data. It keeps testing midpoints, calculates metrics for each, and picks the split that makes the data the purest and most predictable. Pretty smart, right? The tree is literally finding patterns just by asking, is this number less than x, again and again, and building intelligence step by step. So next time you see a decision tree model predicting something like house prices, age groups, or marks, remember it's all about finding the best threshold that keeps the data clean and pure. And that brings us to the end of today's session. I hope you now have a crystal clear understanding of how decision trees actually work, from creating the root node to splitting categorical and numerical data to calculating metrics like Gini and entropy. See, decision trees are not scary, they are just a series of smart decisions that keep dividing data until it becomes clear and predictable. Remember, every split brings us closer to clarity, just like every decision we make shapes our path. If you found this helpful, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thank you so much for learning with me today. Keep exploring, keep coding, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care, stay curious, and keep growing.